Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Abby and I like to talk about spooky things. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you 22 paranormal posts, including photos, videos, and stories from both the paranormal and paranormal encounters subreddits. If you guys like this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up, click the subscribe button down below, and turn on post notifications so you would never miss a video. I post every Sunday and sometimes Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central Time. Without further ado, let's get right on into the video. Our first post is from the user OKFix3431. This photo has been keeping me up at night for over a decade. The summer after I graduated high school, 2012, my parents took me and my brother camping somewhere north of Truckee, California. Along the route to the campground, I was taking photos of cool things I saw in my very trendy Sony CyberShot camera. I didn't notice anything in the field at the time, just a cool abandoned looking barn. I snapped a picture and went on my way. Once home, I downloaded the photos to my computer and noticed this creepy figure lurking towards the barn. I have no idea what it could be. Also to note, I lost the original file, and this is from a post I had made on my Facebook page way back then. There for sure is the possibility that he just didn't realize someone was there. However, I think this figure is pretty tall. There are obviously tall people in the world, and this maybe could be one of them, but it looks really tall to me. Like the fact that it seems like it's kind of hunched over and knees bent a little bit and it's that much taller than a fence seems odd to me. It very well could be some kind of shadow figure attached to the barn. We don't know for sure, obviously, but he said that it was an abandoned looking barn, so it could have been abandoned, it could be haunted, but that's just making assumptions, obviously. But you never know. With the way it looks, it very well could be something there. And it's not that far-fetched to just catch figures out in the middle of nowhere when you're not expecting them. There have been a lot of stories that I have shared about that recently, and it seems that this may be one of them. Our next post is from the user Eclipsed Griffey. Son saw a mimic. So my 6-year-old son saw a mimic yesterday. My wife and I were downstairs entertaining our other kids when my eldest son came quite quickly down the stairs and was rather freaked out. With a little prying, he tells us he just saw me upstairs in our room, which is opposite his, slowly backing away into the darkness with white glowing eyes, smiling. What freaks me out is I do stuff like this with him. I'll do that just to make him jump, and then he runs into my room to attack me. The fact that this thing must have known doing this would normally draw him into the room. Luckily, my boy has good sense and instantly realized it was not me. It is time to do a house cleansing, I think. Edit. Just realized the camera I have in my room fell a few minutes before this happened. That is really scary. If he thinks that this thing knew that he normally runs in there and was trying to get that same reaction, I mean, who knows what would have happened? Would it have hurt him? Like, are ghosts capable of kidnapping people? I mean, is that possible? That takes us into a whole new dimension of this. Is that possible that a ghost can kidnap someone? That's a crazy thing to think about. But it is just, I mean, anything or anyone trying to lure a child in is always frightening. It's bad enough trying to lure a person in, but a child is 10 times worse, and it seems like this is exactly what the mimic was doing. Thankfully, the child, I don't know how the child recognized, maybe it was the glowing eyes, but thankfully the child knew better. I guess it just says a lot that he knew it wasn't his dad and he ran downstairs all freaked out about it. Yes, kids have vivid imaginations, but I think they experience things a lot more than people tend to give them credit for. Our next post is from the user Arcane Fighting. We ran into an elder hiker on a very remote route, and things about the encounter are messing with my brain. My girlfriend and I encountered something very strange this weekend. We trail run. It's sort of become our thing. Yesterday we found a trailhead that was up towards the mountains, about 2 hours away from Seattle, pretty remote. So we left early and got to the trailhead at 8 a.m. The trailhead was particularly difficult, steep enough that we found ourselves walking pretty often. In retrospect, we should have been surprised by what we saw next. Midway through a run on a steep descent, we pass a lone hiker and think absolutely nothing about the encounter. Alone, maybe 65 to 70 and wearing all white. The clothes were modern, looked perfectly placed for today. Hiking pants, vest, hat. She had one hiking pole and a backpack, all white. Again, modern clothes didn't stand out as strange. We say hello and she says nothing back. We were running, so there was nothing rude. We simply ran past her. We continue. It gets harder but progress nearly 3 miles uphill. We get to a point where the trail becomes an overgrown forest road in a small clearing. At this point, the road begins to get very, very overgrown. So we crest a small ridge and suddenly we see a hiker. It's been 30 minutes since we saw the older lady in white, yet here was a hiker with the same outfit. There were no forks in our trail, yet we'd swear this was the same person. But that would be impossible, right? The gravity of this didn't hit yet. So strangely, we ran past her again. We ran a couple feet in front at least, because at that point the road was entirely bushes and not passable. So we turn around. So we walk past her a last time. She says something like, "Seems like the trail ends here." It didn't feel eerie, yet in retrospect it was eerie. We ran back. Everything seemed normal until we reflected on why this lady was there. How would she have gotten there before us? How could she have even made it there at all? We just ran 5 miles uphill, steep terrain, and so did this 70-year-old lady. It's been a one-way path. There have been no other turns. The trail we were on at that point was completely overgrown, enough that we had to turn around. Why was she there? How did she get there? Was she the same lady? When we ran back the same trail, we never ran into the first hiker. I mean, that's really weird. It seems like an eerie message, like a warning that something bad's gonna happen, but obviously if they posted this, nothing bad happened. They didn't mention it, and I'm sure they would have if something else happened. Someone in the comments suggested that it could have been like twins trying to mess with people, which is for sure an option. But it is weird if they're describing this as something that's very difficult to do. Yes, there are very, very fit, like 70-year-olds, but to me that seems like a stretch. What are the odds, you know? I guess I can't really just slap a paranormal label on it, but I guess seeing the same person twice, when it's impossible they could have like gone another way to pass you to get back up to the top, is really weird. Yeah, I don't know what to make of this. Our next post is from the user Taking It Peasy. The afterlife is real. Haven't said anything to anyone, but my dad passed a few weeks ago. When I was staying at his house planning for the funeral, I was having an understandably bad time mentally. Very worried, sad, distressed. Woke up at 5 a.m., tossed and turned, went to the bathroom, laid in bed for a bit, which is to say I was objectively awake. This never happens. Then I saw something I can't explain away. My eyes were closed and a small bright white light emitted from across the room. Small pin light at first, then began to slowly grow bigger. I blinked. It was there. Open and closed eyes. It was there. Keep in mind, this was just a wall and a couch, no electronics in my childhood bedroom. It began to open up, getting bigger until it was about 5 feet around, bright white, undefined edges. There were moving shadows recessed in the light. Then he came to me, my dad who had passed after a brutal battle with stage 4 pancreatic cancer 2 days prior. I didn't see him. He simply, calmly said, "Jay, stop worrying. Stop it. It's gonna be fine, and there's nothing you should feel bad for. Do you feel that?" Just then, I felt physically warm and peaceful for the first time in months. I have never felt that sense of calm ever in my life. Then it was gone, just as it had arrived. I cried and cried until I was too dehydrated to cry anymore. Then I heard my uncle's cat meow so loud it shook the walls. I got up and took a shower. Wasn't expecting my extended family to be there for the 4 p.m. lunch so early, at 7 a.m. Better to get moving. Came downstairs, quiet house, and no one was there. No one was awake yet. No uncle, no cat. But I did have cats growing up. Milo especially would meow so loud the walls would shake. That's crazy. Was he there to say hello with my dad? Was all that a stress-induced hallucination? Not sure. Just glad it is all over. Caring for a dying parent is the worst part of life I have experienced by far, but at least it is real and meaningful. In this world full of BS, at least it is real. I mean, that would be a crazy experience. I have no doubt that that happened, and I don't know why, those things don't happen to everyone. Why can't we all be visited by our past loved ones right away when we're grieving and having a hard time? I don't know why that doesn't happen to everyone, and I wish I did. But also, I think we all have meaningful experiences in other ways. Maybe if it wasn't so glaringly obvious that it's like something magical and supernatural, he would have brushed it off as, which, come to think of it now, an experience I had that I will share with you guys one day. It's pretty hard to deny that it was anything else. So, and I think I'm one that does question things sometimes, because sometimes I know my imagination can run a little wild. So his for sure was crazier than my experience, but maybe that's what it is. It's just, you kind of get what you need for you to understand the situation and that you're being visited and that it's a sign instead of brushing it off. So maybe he needed something like a bright ball of light and a cat meowing so hard that it shook the walls. Which, if anyone else has experienced that, please let me know, because I did not know cats can meow that loud. Maybe he needed that to settle him down and make him take a deep breath and be like, okay, like my dad's here, even though he's not here. So I don't know. That is a crazy experience, and I'm glad that, you know, he had that feeling of calmness. It sounds like he really needed it after all that. Our next post is from the user Nikki Wild, disappearing shoe. Hi fellow Redditors, I'm wondering if this community has an explanation for this, as we are stumped. My sister leaves her stinky dog walking shoes outside on her front porch. One morning she went to put them on and one was missing. She has a Ring door cam and reviewed the footage, thinking a local beastie, most likely a fox, as I said, stinky shoes, must have taken it. Instead she found this. No shadows, no animals, just a shoe suddenly disappearing. If you zoom in, it's one of the shoes next to the basket. She showed this to the company who installed it, who in turn showed it to the distributor. No one can explain it, especially as she received no motion detected notifications. Anyone got any ideas? Tried to post it in the Glitch in the Matrix, but can't post videos there. I do not think this is a paranormal activity. I think somehow the camera just missed maybe slight animal motion, and I know my Ring camera, it updates like every hour if there's no motion detected. So it'll look randomly like at 4 a.m. that it jumps. So let's say at my old apartment where the like lights and stuff would change because it was partially outdoor. If there was no motion kind of screen capture every hour, so sometimes it would look like it jumped and all of a sudden there's light and it's like, how did that happen? But it's just because nothing happened. Specifically one time, an overhead ceiling access thing in the hallway like fell open, but it wasn't enough to trigger the motion. So when I was looking on the camera for how it opened, it was just a jump of like not open and then open. I'm assuming that's what happened here, that somehow the motion was so subtle or so sneaky or something. Maybe it was an animal being sneaky intentionally and somehow the camera didn't catch it, so it was one of those jump cuts. I do really think that's what it is. I don't think it's paranormal. And I do think it's weird, though, that the company would know this to explain it to her. That's what's throwing me off here, because you'd think that they'd know that. Our next post is from the user NickCav07. Strange encounter at Great Wolf Lodge at night. Hello everyone, my family and I had a weird night at the Great Wolf Lodge and wanted to check if anyone else had similar encounters at this place. We've stayed here 3 times before with no problems ever, but this was the first time anything like this has ever happened before. We stayed at the Great Wolf Lodge and had a suite room. It has 2 conjoining rooms with 2 doors where you can lock the room from either side. The kids stayed in the kids-style room with the kids' bunk beds, and we stayed on the non-kids side room. We kept the doors open for both sides, and I made sure the doors for both rooms were fully locked, including the lock where you can't fully open the door from outside. At midnight, my son, 6 years old, ran into our room half awake next to our bed and was crying, half asleep, sitting up right next to us. I asked him if he had a bad dream, and he said no, I really saw something scary in the room. It was a big kid with a dark shadow walking around. I ran right past him to get there. I knew I checked the room before he went to sleep and figured it was his imagination, and we went back to sleep. Then 3 a.m., my wife sat up frantically looking around, and I asked what's the matter. She said someone yelled, "Mom. You honestly didn't hear that?" I told her no, I didn't. Then she asked me to go check on her daughter. I go to the kids' bunk bed den in the next room and found her out of bed, bundled up in the corner, hyperventilating and full of tears. I swooped her up and she started saying, "Be careful, Dad, he's still in here." I ran back to our room and laid her on her bed with my wife, and I started searching the whole place. I turned all the lights on and checked literally everywhere, and there was no one. The doors were untouched, locks still in place, and windows unable to open. Honestly, I was feeling the walls and mirrors looking for hidden doors. I asked my daughter what she saw, and she said she was laying on the top bunk and thought at first it was me walking towards their bunk bed, but as soon as I got closer, she realized it wasn't me. She said this person was taller and skinnier than me. It also had a smooth white skin and a neck longer than a normal person. Its skin was paper white, smooth, and looked naked, but wasn't naked. It didn't appear to have much facial features. I asked if maybe it was a blanket, and she said no. Its skin was smooth without wrinkles, and it walked straight up to me, and I covered myself. Then I watched it walk towards the door where your room is. I came down the bunk when it walked away and peeked out of the den window, but saw it still walking towards your room. So I hid in the corner you found me, and I tried to stay quiet so it wouldn't hear me because I thought it would kill me. But I started panicking and couldn't breathe while trying to be quiet. I was thinking of running out the front door into the hallway. My wife asked our daughter if she was trying to be quiet. Why did she yell, "Mom?" Our daughter said, "No, I never said anything because I didn't want it to hear me and kill me." I didn't even hear our daughter say anything else besides her hyperventilating as I got close to the bunk beds. I told my daughter not to mention what she had saw to our son, even after he tells us what he saw when he wakes up. I know he would be spooked if he found out his sister had a similar encounter a few hours after him. Both of our kids consistently sleep in their own rooms since they were little and have never ran into our room in the middle of the night unless our son had a rare bathroom accident. At this point, we figured the kids' room was sketchy, so we kept them with us, then closed and locked our room from that room. It took an hour for my wife to fall back to sleep. I was honestly spooked by this whole thing, so I left the hallway light on and figured I'd just keep watch and stay awake until daylight. After she fell back to sleep, the closet light I left on turned off and wouldn't let me turn it on, so I turned the bathroom light on. A little later, I heard loud knocking on the conjoining room door I had locked. I honestly got goosebumps and tried to convince myself it was coming from the front door, but I knew it was from the conjoining door. I debated whether to ignore it or check. I felt vulnerable laying down without checking, so I went and checked, and there was nothing, just an empty room. Luckily, still with the lights on. Half an hour later, my wife, still asleep, started freaking out in her sleep. She appeared to be having a night terror, which she has had before, 1 to 2 times per year in the past. I woke her up and she was frantic. She stood up and said she dreamt she woke up from a dream in the same bed. She went to the bathroom in her room, came out, and ended up being stuck in the other room, locked in with the evil entity. She said I had her locked in the other room and she was knocking like crazy in her dream, trying to get back into our side before the entity got her. Later in the morning, our son woke up and we asked him to describe what he saw. He said he saw what looked like the shape of a big tall kid with a long neck that was white/gray in color and had a scary big dark shadow walking around the room. He said it was making weird noises like it was speaking words he didn't understand. He said it walked right up to him in the bed and had big eyes that glowed like our cat's eyes look in the dark. As the sun came out, we got the courage to go into the other room and grab our belongings to leave. The last weird thing is the room had a weird smell which wasn't present the day prior. It had smelled like a weird incense was lit. Kind of reminded me of those stick incense that were popular back in the 90s. I personally didn't see this thing, but both of my kids, 6 and 9, who have never had an encounter like this, saw the same thing 3 hours apart from each other and had similar descriptions of it without knowing the other's description of it. The only thing that differed in the descriptions was my daughter said it appeared faceless and my son said it had big glowy eyes and white/gray, not just white. However, my daughter covered herself when I got closer and my son watched it approach. I did, however, witness 1, both of my kids having a similar encounter, 2, my wife wake up to someone yelling, "Mom," 3, the light turn off and not turn back on, 4, banging on the conjoining room door, 5, my wife having a night terror where she was locked in the other room, banging on the door 30 minutes after I heard banging on the door. I've never really been a big believer in hauntings and paranormal stuff, but after this, I'm left questioning in my head, and I find myself thinking about it all the time. Wow! I have no reason to doubt any of this at all. I think the odds of both kids seeing 2 very similar creatures that terrified them that much when they're not prone to seeing things or this isn't common for them, it's weird. Also, the daughter not saying anything but the mom hearing mom. Maybe it's a mother's intuition thing. I feel like that could be a way to explain it. The door knocking could be explained away by he's like subconsciously trying to hear things from the other side there because he's scared. And then obviously the dream could be explained by her having that dream because the situation just happened. Also, the closet light could be explained by just electronics. However, all of them combined with the experiences the kids had, I do think that majority of them are legit paranormal and they're all related. So I wonder what's going on with that Great Wolf Lodge room. I'm glad that the parents also took it seriously. I mean, obviously they sent the one kid back to bed, but sometimes that happens where kids like see things and it's just a dream. It's like you have to toe the line between whether it's a kid's imagination or something real. But when the second kid was freaking out, I'm glad that they took it so seriously that they're like, nope, we're not going in there, lock it off, and stay with us. I'd love to hear if anyone else had experiences at this specific place. Our next post is from user Milusteph. I am a security guard and I work in a morgue. Trigger warning for this story, there's a part that talks about how someone died in a very traumatic way, so I will put a timestamp in the description of where to skip to if this is going to be something that's bothersome to you. I will tell you what happened to me working as a security guard in a morgue. I work as a security guard in a morgue. My shift is night from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and each shift is covered by a single security guard. I'm in charge of controlling the entry of corpses, receiving family members to enter and identify them, recording their data, and of course, maintaining the security of the facility. The entrance to the building is about 20 meters from the security booth, and for some time now, the door has been closed at 11 p.m. once all the doctors leave. One afternoon, an ambulance brought a death. The boys who gave the details of the deceased were very faint, sweaty, and dizzy. The driver couldn't stop sobbing, and he felt very tired, something that almost never happens. I asked him if they were okay and if they needed anything, and they answered no, that they just wanted to deliver that lifeless body and go home. So we continued with the protocol without giving it importance and continued with the work. I wrote down the victim's information. The diagnosis was brutal. Strangulation followed by impalement, found in a nearby lagoon. When I checked the cameras, I saw what they were carrying, a corpse, in an advanced state of decomposition with the skull exposed, the skin loose, maggots everywhere, and the stick that had gone through it horribly, from the anus to the shoulder, was still there. I contained my disgust as best as I could and continued with the protocol. Around 10 p.m., I began to notice a foul smell coming from the grate outside the guard room. The smell usually comes out on summer days because the water passes through there when they wash the body for the autopsy. I sprayed air freshener and closed the window a little, but the stench persisted. Through the cameras, I saw white smoke coming out of the grate for about 10 seconds. I didn't think anything about it. I didn't want to. But as soon as I closed the front door, the door to my on-call room slammed violently behind me. I was frozen. I tried to convince myself it was the wind, but something told me it wasn't. When I got back, my phone died so quickly it seemed quite strange. I decided to play on my laptop. It took 20 minutes to boot up, which I also found strange, so I just stared at the cameras out of boredom. I instantly regretted it. One of the trays inside the burial chamber moved on its own, sliding deeper into the chamber, where there was no longer access for security cameras or outsiders. I was stunned. Minutes later, the knocking on the door began. Dry and insistent blows. My heart was beating wildly. I turned off the cameras, turned on music, and forced myself to ignore everything until someone knocked on the window. I didn't know whether to pray or scream. At 4:15, the door to the guardhouse opened by itself. I went out trembling to close it, but my movements were clumsy, slow, as if something invisible was holding me back. The smell of rotting meat was unbearable. I felt watched. In the guard room, we have a rosary and a cross with the Virgin Mary, so my only thought was to close my eyes, cross myself, and pray. Then I remembered that the prayer to the Virgin Mary is often used when performing exorcisms. When I began to ask him to stop everything that was happening, my body was shaking from the cold. The window slammed shut again, and the smell began to fade, finally until I looked at the time and it was already 5 a.m. I had to reopen the door to let the workers in. From that night on, every time I enter the place, I pray, and when I'm gone, so am I. I had never felt a presence so dense and dark. The change was the only time I truly believed that something other than human was watching me. I don't know, this is obviously frightening and horrifying on so many levels. Part of me wonders if maybe it wasn't demonic, it was just someone who had been killed by someone else, murdered, and was so angry and their body was taken out of where it was left and they're so angry about it. And it's just that energy. that's following the body. That obviously is scary, regardless of if it's not trying to hurt the guard or anything like that. Or maybe there's something attached to the body. I'd hate to say that that person's spirit is having negative intentions and is evil. I don't think that's the case. I think if anything, if the person's spirit caused chaos, it was just out of anger of what happened to it probably. Or also, maybe somehow a negative entity is following this deceased person around for some reason. I don't know. That's so frightening. Our next post is from the user Petite Waifu. Inherited earrings from my aunt who committed suicide, and strange things have been happening since. Help? Unsure if I'm posting this in the right sub for this, but I figured maybe someone here may have some suggestions/insight or could guide me to the appropriate sub for this. A few months ago, my grandma mailed me a pair of earrings that used to belong to my aunt, who tragically took her own life years ago while wearing them. I didn't think much of it at first, but ever since they've been in my house, weird things keep happening. Sometimes I wake up feeling like I'm being watched. Multiple tragedies keep randomly happening in my own life since I received them, which is really out of the norm, and just a plethora of other things like hearing strange noises coming from the living room where I keep them, etc. I don't know if it's just grief, my imagination, or something spiritual, but it's really starting to mess with me. Has anyone ever experienced something similar with inherited items tied to trauma or death? What should I do with them? I don't want to disrespect her memory, but I'm also getting kind of freaked out at some of the things that have been occurring since having them in my place. Any help, insight, or advice would be appreciated. I think maybe there's just a lot of negative energy surrounding them, especially if she was wearing those earrings when she passed. I'm not gonna lie, I think I would be a little bit weirded out by that. I don't know, but I guess if it's your family member, maybe it's just like the cause of death and that she's wearing them. I don't know, for some reason that feels like weird to me. But I guess if it was like her wedding ring, I don't think like I'd be weirded out by that. For some reason the earrings are weirding me out. I don't know why. It's probably just a me thing. I feel like there's probably just negative energy attached to them. I mean, she obviously was in excruciating mental pain if she took her own life, and so that energy was probably absorbed by the earrings, especially again if she was wearing them when she took her own life. So I feel like that could be it. It's just negative, sad, potentially angry energy trapped in these earrings. I feel like maybe taking them to be blessed, or I mean, depending on what you believe in, like I always say, like your belief, I think, is the conviction in which makes like things work. So I think, depending on what she believes in, take it to get blessed at a church, cleanse it with not sage, but, burning something to cleanse it. I always say sage, but shouldn't be using white sage. Something like that. Just something to cleanse the earrings and give them almost a new life, so to speak. I definitely think that it really is energy attached to the earrings. Our next post is from the user RXCPHTChick84. I saw my deceased best friend in the graveyard where he's buried. I would have just thought I was hallucinating had my mother not seen the same thing. In 2009, I lost my best friend to suicide. The day after his burial, my mom and I went to his gravesite to leave some trinkets. We were getting ready to leave when we looked to the far side of the cemetery because someone caught our eye. I looked harder, and I swear it was my friend waving at me and my mom. I asked my mom if she saw what I was seeing, and she immediately said yes, I definitely see it. Josh is telling us goodbye. We jumped in the truck and almost spun the tires to get to that section of the cemetery. We got there, and no one is there. Absolutely no one. I find comfort in this because I felt such guilt about not knowing what he was planning on doing. He was smiling so big and waving so hard at us. This is a moment my mom and I will forever cherish. I have no doubt it was him. I think that was probably his way of trying to make her feel better. I think a lot of the times people feel guilt like they could have done something, which, hey, there's always the possibility, but I think a lot of the times people hide those feelings and they potentially don't want to be a burden on someone else, which I will say, if you are ever in that mindset, if anyone thinks that you're a burden for coming to them with your feelings, that's like unacceptable. They are not someone who deserves to have you in their life. People who genuinely care about someone will try to help them through anything. So I think that was a nice way to tell her that there was nothing she could have done. It wasn't her fault, and help her with that guilt. Our next post is from the user Sweet Squirrel Cheeks. Eastern State Penitentiary. We did the audio tour at Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia in the early afternoon. While we were standing in the courtyard, taking in the surroundings and examining the jail, I suddenly felt a strong pressure on my left shoulder. It was distinct, 5 points of pressure, like a hand pressing down firmly. I immediately looked over my shoulder, trying to process what was happening. I had never felt anything like it before in my life. The air was still, no wind. I was in good health, so it wasn't some random bodily sensation. I didn't even tell my friend about it until we were back at the hotel. Strangely, I wasn't scared. I actually thought it was really cool. Later, I found out that the Eastern State is considered one of the most haunted places in the U.S., which made the experience even more fascinating. Out of everything we did on the trip, this stop was by far my favorite, and I highly recommend it. I was surprised that my encounter happened outside the cell blocks, but it definitely felt real. I've always kind of believed in ghosts, but this experience truly solidified it for me. If you see anything in them, let me know, and I'll go back and comment on this. So cool when people are on tours and just have a little experience like that. I want to bring up my experience on the Zach Bagans tour. I have to not say that because, like I said in 2 videos ago, I'm doing a whole Zach Bagans dedicated video very shortly. I'll try and film that within the next couple weeks. But it's so cool when you're like in these places or doing these tours and you feel something. And it's like, I don't know, it just validates the whole thing. Even if you didn't have any doubt to begin with. It's so cool when you have a little thing that you're like, oh my God, something happened. But it's not like scary, you know? It's not like someone trying to harm you. It's just like a little something and you're like, oh wow. Anyway, very cool. Our next post is from the user Birdbath Slime. Voices in Abandoned Factory. A few nights ago, after a night out drinking, I climbed up scaffolding to enter an abandoned building. This video was taken about 10 minutes after I entered the building, stomping around, climbing up and down ladders. Only after rewatching the videos, I have noted I was not alone. You can hear someone shh-ing another person, perhaps hiding from a drunk intruder. I didn't see anyone, but upon rewatching the footage, you can definitely hear someone. I definitely hear it. It sounds like people whispering. Obviously, since he said he wasn't intending to like catch anything, he wasn't like trying to be quiet and catch anything, so the stomping is a little distracting. But I, like at the end specifically, I can really hear what sounds like people whispering. So for sure, there could just be other people in there, and that's what it is. Or it could be something paranormal. I mean, we don't know the history of this factory, what it was, how long it's been abandoned for, but considering the state of it, it looks like a lot of people have been there. It seems like it's probably been abandoned for a while. I think it's really interesting that they leave an entire, like, I don't know if excavator is the right word, but like excavator little truck thing there. I think that's something you probably want to take with you. It's expensive, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, warehouses and factories can also be a place where a haunting occurs, not just hospitals and mental health facilities. Our next post is from the user Ice Swallow. Laughing Thing. Good evening, everyone. This event happened 2 years ago. My friends and I decided to go on a holiday in Malaga. We rented a villa in the middle of the hills. Literally, there was nothing around us but nature. One night, they all went to the city center, but I just wanted to enjoy the nice night by the pool. At one point, I hear 2 laughs, so I thought I was tripping. But after the third one, I started recording. Where I was pointing the camera, there was literally nothing. Till this day, I don't know what that was, to be fair.
Oh my days, there's something laughing outside, bro. Yeah. Man, he's locking the door, bro. What the fuck is this? Yeah, this was getting closer, bro. Oh my days, what the fuck is it? Some laughing shit.
I'm wondering where the dog barking is coming from, if there's supposedly no one nearby. Obviously, middle of countryside, you shouldn't be hearing other people, but we're hearing a dog barking, so is that his? Is it like a neighboring person in the countryside? And in that case, maybe they have kids and that's what the laughing is. All in all, though, I think it is very creepy to be kind of in the middle of nowhere, thinking you're alone and hearing children laughing. I certainly would be freaked out. I could definitely hear like separate dog barking and like laughing, but I don't know. I feel like this isn't paranormal. I feel like there has to be an explanation. Because of the dog, that's why I'm like really, I don't think this is paranormal. Our next post is from the user tgara1. My best 5 EVPs. I didn't know how to share audio, so I screen recorded my best EVPs. Let me know what you think or hear. Headphones help.
Did you have a piano collection?
What if I don't want to?
I think the Let's Go, which was the third one, and the last one where they were talking about the mirror, I think those were the two clearest, where I can actually like make out what they're saying. I can hear the other three. I can tell that there's something there. I just can't make out what they're saying. I would love to know where these were taken, under what circumstances, if he was with other people, if it's possible that other people were talking. But I do kind of have a feeling, based on the fact that he has these little EVP clips and has them like repeating and stuff, I have a feeling he's like not new to this. So yeah, I don't know. I'm very interested by these. I think these are a great catch. Our next post is from the user Bear Leveling Writer. Portal? No portal. I cut clips of this session because it took so long for a response. This is everything I got and the questions were not cut. Also says, I've been messing around with my spirit box and consistently get the same man. I asked at the end of the video if there is a portal and I'm not sure if it says many. What do you think?
I'm getting a lot of stuff that's not recording. My dog is snoring in the background.
What?
Is there a portal in this house?
Again, I would love to know where this is. It does seem like maybe it was her house or a hotel based on what you can see of the location behind the spirit box, and based on the fact that she said she's just been messing around with it. Also, I think the fact that maybe she gets the same man is if she's in the same location every time. I mean, I could definitely hear some of the things that he's saying, but I wonder why she'd be asking if there's a portal if it's in her house. That'd be a little scary to have there. don't think I'd want to know the answer. Yeah, I can definitely hear the things that she caught. And it's kind of hard to make out her questions, I think just because of like the white noisy sound in the background. But I had to watch it twice to make out her questions. I was a little confused, but I think this is very interesting. I love like watching little clips like this. Our next post is from the user Ladybug1987. Stepney Cemetery. This past week, my friends and I visited once during the day and then at night where the Warrens' grave is and drove by their house. When I walked in, I was in front of our group and the entire left side of my body went numb and tingly. I had sage in my left hand. I didn't feel sacred by the feeling. I was thinking more the left side was safer. Little did I know the Warrens were on my right side. That night when I went, I felt nothing. I was really open to the experience and wanted to see something. I kept walking and my two friends behind me yelled at me, "We need to go now." They booked it out of there. I got maybe 200 feet in at this point. I slowly walked back. Once in the car, they wouldn't tell me what they saw until we got to the hotel. When we looked at the videos, we saw 3 men together to my left and another crouching behind a headstone, all on my left side, as if this morning they were testing me. I just assumed it was someone. Tell me it was safer on the left, but most likely they tried to bring me to them. Does anyone else have thoughts? I did have a little bit of a hard time understanding the last half of that, and I personally can't make out anything in the photos. So I would really love it if you guys can take a look at these and point out anything that I'm missing. I've looked at these a really long time, and I can kind of see things, but it's like it also could be a headstone. Like I do see shadows and things that maybe that's what she's talking about, but I don't know. It's not clear to me. So if you guys could take a look at these, maybe I'm missing something. For sure, if they saw men, I mean, I would not jump to it's ghosts just because they're in a cemetery. There also could just be weirdos hanging out in the cemetery trying to catch people off guard, attack them, whatnot. So that's a real possibility. Yeah, I don't know. These photos are hard to make out, so let me know if you see anything. Our next post is from the user AbbeyStorySubmission. Weird EVP. Can anyone decipher what it said? If you listen closely, after my dog starts to bark at the 4-second mark, there is a male voice. No one was home. I was hoping someone with AI could pull the dog bark out and enhance the voice. Easier to hear with headphones also. I think the dog barking really does take away from this, but if there was truly no one home at this time, it is weird because it does sound like the voice is coming from inside the house. Granted, the dog was barking at something, so it could have been a man walking by. We don't know how close they are to the sidewalk or something. If a man was walking by and loudly said something, could be a possibility. It's really hard to tell with the dog barking in the background. It does sound like it's in the house, but due to the dog's reaction, that tells me the dog saw something outside, and that could be a person. Because I can't tell what it says, maybe it could be the dog kind of growling or making a groaning noise in between barks, maybe. If you guys can actually make out what the noise is trying to say, then maybe we're talking. But I don't really know what this one. Our next post is from the user The Brody. Orb caught on camera. My dad passed away back in December, so it's just me and my mom now. This past weekend, I went out of town for business. When I got home on Sunday, my mom was in shock because she said she found evidence of paranormal activity on our security camera. At 3 a.m. on Saturday night/Sunday morning, our camera detected motion in the living room. She said she felt sick on Friday after I left. She said she was feeling a little down and was thinking about my dad, and she was talking to him and asking him to watch over her as I was away. Sunday morning, when she woke up, she said all her sickness had went away. She checked the camera footage because our camera said there was one motion event in the living room around 3 a.m. When she showed me the footage, I was completely in shock. I think this could be a situation of dust. However, because of the, talking to him was kind of a coincidence. Also, I would love to know how frequently they get motion notifications for dust. Is this a common occurrence? If this has never happened before, then I'd be more inclined to be like, oh, okay, like that is an orb. And if I say it's an orb, like if I lean towards the orb thing, I'm thinking it's obviously the dad/husband. But I can't, I really can't say it's an orb without knowing, how often does this occur? If they have actual, motion where they're, hanging out in there and they look at the footage, do they see these kinds of things where it's, dust? And this one just so happened to be close enough to trigger the motion sensor. There's so many different things that it could be or explanations. I think for their sake, it would be really nice to think that it was him and he was there watching over her while her daughter was gone. I think that's for sure a nice thing to think, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We have a similar one up next from the user Moss Mandingo. Debunk these orbs. Security camera captured these 2 videos while a friend was out of town. I was thinking a fly or moth, but the orb is translucent at the start and moves very fast and smoothly. I don't think it's a bug, but I think it could be dust. So obviously dust can come off as translucent or whatever. It's not I think it would be considered a solid, scientifically speaking, but it's not really solid, it's dust. When you have a dust bunny, it's fluffy. You can kind of see it through some areas. So yeah, I think this is dust. Our next post is from the user Tensiga. My encounter that made me believe. My mom, my younger sister, and myself moved into a historical house in Easley, South Carolina. It's on Main, still has the parlor room, and for some reason, slide bolts on the outside of doors, and all the doors have those really old handles that you need a skeleton key for. We had to keep the glass windows and wood floors in the house because that is what they said made it historic. My aunt actually leased it for us to live in until our old home got fixed up, but the owner had told her no. He said no one is to live in the house, it's only to be used as a business. So she lied and kept lying about us using it as a business. I didn't find out the extent of the conflict with that until way later. I still don't know the actual history of the house though. Oh, it's also across from a graveyard. All I know is that place is haunted by 3 spirits, a young boy, an older woman, and a middle-aged man. The boy and woman never scared me. It was the man who I finally captured on video. It has taken me a long time to even watch this again because of the chills I get. I don't think he is demonic or evil, despite the things he has done for attention. I think he is just unhappy and desperate to be acknowledged for him to have shown himself to me like this. Of course I have absolute fear in my voice in this video, but at the time he had done some wild things, to the point of pulling my hair so hard my head jerked back. That actually makes me really scared watching that video. Like, I felt very tense and frightened. I can definitely see something move. Like, I'm sitting there staring at the video, trying to make out that figure, and I can visibly see him move. Does anyone else see that? Like, or am I crazy? That's the part that, like, made me tense up and scared me. I think she definitely caught whatever that was on camera. I mean, we can't say for sure which one it is, or, I mean, I don't know how they know exactly that there's 3 spirits and, like, that they're a woman and a child and a man. I don't know all that. She didn't include that, which I checked her profile. She doesn't have any other stories where she gives more context. I wish she did because I'd love to know more. But part of me wonders if maybe the spirits there are the reason why no one's allowed to live there. Or maybe it's just not up to code for someone to live there. But yeah, it's really weird, the business specific thing. Maybe it's not weird, but especially if it's in a neighborhood, then it's weird. But yeah, I don't know, maybe it's related to paranormal activity. Maybe it's just a code issue and that can be brushed off. It's not correlated. But I definitely see a man moving in that video. Our next post is from the user The Silver Tongue. Motorbike moves on its own. This video is from Pakistan. It is also evident that there was nothing that could have made the bike move, like an earthquake or strong winds. I'm not super familiar with motorcycles, but I would imagine it's not like a bike. I think it's more like a car where, like, when it's off, the tires aren't, like, moving. Well, hold on though. Let me think about that. Maybe it's, sorry, this is a stupid question. When you're on a hill, you turn your wheel so it's towards the curb, and then you put the parking brake on. Is that in case the car, like, randomly rolls, or is that just, like, I'm assuming that's because the brake, like, in case for some reason the brake gives out, or someone, like, hits you and moves the car forward a little. Sorry, I just had to talk that through. Unless the brakes, like, gave out and it just rolled, but it doesn't seem like they're on a super steep hill, and it did go sideways. So maybe it's, like, just enough of an incline one way or the other that you can't really tell from the video. Like, maybe the brakes gave out. But it's weird to me. I guess someone can answer this question in the comments. When your motorcycle is off and, like, parked and everything, can you roll it? Like how you can roll a bike next to you, or are the tires, like, locked? Because if the tires are locked, then this, for me, I'm like, how did that happen? Somehow a ghost got to it and, like, turned it on, but didn't turn it on, obviously. But, like, somehow made it roll and fall over. I don't know. I think this is really weird. Our next post is from the user Forevermore01. Unbelievable. This was taken on my security cameras. There were no other people at my house and no footprints. I think it could just be a trick of the eye. Could be a shadow figure. Could be a shadow person. In the comments, she says that in the footage, it's there 1 second and it's gone the next. And she makes another post with additional photos showing that it disappeared, like without it there. It doesn't look like it's necessarily something there, it doesn't look like it's a physical object necessarily that's there with making that illusion. It looks like a shadow. I don't know where the shadow's coming from though. On the photos though, we see timestamps. So the one with nothing there was taken at 22:42 time, obviously military time. And the one with the thing there was taken at 22:50. They're like 8 minutes apart, which could be like just like if there's no motion, it's just taking little clips, like how I said, like Ring cameras do to explain that one shoe one all the way back at the beginning. but I don't feel like I'm spending way too much time on this one specifically. It's not, I don't think it's paranormal. I think it could just be a shadow of something, and maybe she's never seen it before. Our final post of the video is by the user SmokeyX64. Weird voice on cam. My mother sent this to me and asked what the noise was. I listened a few times, and at first it sounds like the dog growling, even though she's not much of a growler. But in the end, it kind of sounds like a voice. Not sure if this is a good sub for this, but thought it was kind of creepy. My mom is scared about it, but I'm not sure what I'm hearing. No one was in the house at the time, and they live in a pretty remote part of Arizona. Personally, I guess the last one, to me, like, it could sound like someone saying what. But to me, they all just sound like the dog growling. I know they said that the dog doesn't growl, and in one of the comments they said that the dog couldn't growl that loud. But I mean, maybe it's traveling weird to the camera where it sounds louder than it actually is. I don't think a lot of these security camera microphones are necessarily the best quality. I think, if anything, they focus more on the video aspect of it and don't, like, the microphones aren't as good of quality as the cameras in these security cameras. So it could just be picking it up weird. I don't know, to me it sounds like a little dog woofy growl. It seems like a noise that would make sense to come out of this dog. So I really hate that that was the one we ended on. I should have picked like a real spooky one to end on. I feel like the last few were kind of a letdown. But that is it for today's video. Let me know what you think about any of these. I love to hear your thoughts. Debunking, opinions, relating stories. I love the comments. I love reading them all. If you guys like this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. I will pop a couple video suggestions on the screen for you to watch next. Please click the subscribe button down below and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I post every Sunday and sometimes Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central Time. Check out my Instagram and TikTok linked down below where I do special effects makeup content over there. Currently working on an Inside Out character series. And with that being said, again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.